Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Power System Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Long. Today, we are talking everything and anything anime and manga. Let's get a recap on what I've been up to since the last episode. I caught up with my Deer Friend Nokotan, and I think I was all caught up with Elusive Samurai last episode. My Deer Friend Nokotan was the only thing that I really need to catch up on. I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes I caught up with, and they were an especially weird 4 and 5 episodes. Super random. I know there was one episode where they literally said, like, okay, we're going to give you 18 mini episodes in one episode. And that's all it was. It was just 18 little shorts back to back to back. It was so confusing. There was a sports episode, like a sports festival episode, and it was like the least budgetary intensive sports festival you can expect anime to have, but it was still extremely entertaining. Nokotan was like a revered god at one point. It was weird. This show is weird and funky. That's putting it mildly. But it seems like the first couple episodes of this show is weird, but it doesn't go too far. But these past few episodes were just like, no, full throttle. Or maybe I'm misremembering the earlier episodes and I gotta go back. But hilarious as always. Sometimes I'll just throw it on and my roommate will watch with me and we'll both just be like, what? But it's perfect for that. Like I said in the first time I talked about it, it's a great turn your brain off show, kick back, not even worry about it. In terms of Elusive Samurai, since the last time I talked about it, this previous week they released a recap episode. By the time of airing this episode, another episode will probably drop. I'll work on my, release schedule to make sure everything is current. But as far as Elusive Samurai, it was a recap episode. I'm usually on recaps, but this one was actually kind of helpful. This one was helpful. It reminded me of some of the earlier episodes of how everything came together, so I was a little appreciative of it. I'm usually not for recap episodes. That was new. I'm just like trying to figure out other shows that I could be picking up because I know these other shows that I've been watching are about to end. Luckily, I have a lot of hope for October where I'm about to get. I honestly shouldn't worry about getting into anything new because I know as soon as these shows are over, Dandadan is going to start airing. The Uzumaki show is going to be airing really soon. There was another one coming out in October. Oh, Dragon Ball Daima is coming out the same time as Sparking Zero, aka Budokai Tenkaichi 4. I shouldn't even call it Sparking Zero. I shouldn't even ask the internet. I'm pretty sure internet's already on that wave of we're all just gonna refer to it as Budokai Tenkaichi 4. So yeah, Dragon Ball Daima, Dandadan, Uzumaki, and Solo Leveling Part 2, Season 2. I don't know if it's a Part 2 or a Season 2, but more Solo Leveling is supposed to come out before the end of the year. I think about that. So I shouldn't worry too much about picking up another show because I know I'm going to be spoiled for options in a couple weeks. So that's catch up. Let's get right into the main topic of tonight's episode. Well, I say tonight, I'm recording this at night. You could be listening to this at any time of the day. But for today's episode, I just saw Ninja Scroll because it is its 30th anniversary. Let me fact check that. Let me make sure. Even though I just saw it and I had the ticket. Yeah, 30th anniversary for Ninja Scroll. Fun fact, I've never seen Ninja Scroll. Loosely heard of it, right? As like a movie that people like name drop like here and there. So I knew it was a thing. Knew nothing about it. I never saw it. It came out in 1993. So obviously, that's before I was born. Obviously early for kind of my generation. It's also hyper mature, very much rated R. So I don't know how I would have gotten to see this when I was a kid, but I saw it for the first, because I saw that AMC was showing it in theaters for the anniversary. I was like, well, I've heard that this is a good one. I'm not doing anything. It's a random Wednesday night. Sure, like let's get it. And I loved it. You know, quite a great way to watch it for the first time, I will say, in a theater. I think I am when it comes to movies, I firmly believe that movie theaters are the apex way to view movies. It's made for that. TV, let me kick it in my room. Let me kick it in my living room, in my bedroom, just chilling. A movie, I want the theater. Give me the big screen, all the surround sound, the crowd of people to enjoy it with. I'm all there for it. I like movie. Sometimes, it's just like, I want to stay in and put on a movie, and there's like a cozy aspect to it. But usually, if I'm trying to watch something for the first time and I really want to take it seriously, I prefer a movie theater. So I was very happy and blessed that this was in theaters and I could see it this way. So I knew I had to jump on it. And with AMC A-List, I mean, at this point, like, they're paying me to go see movies. If y'all don't have AMC A-List and you like to go to the movies, what are you doing? You need to save your money and you need to get AMC A-List. At this point, I'm asking for an AMC sponsorship, but that would be killer. AMC A-List, you pay like $25 a month and you get 3 free movies a week. It's a week. Y'all know how expensive movie tickets are nowadays. You buy 2 tickets to a movie and you paid that $25. Any other movie you go see in that month is free at that point. If a movie you loved really, really came out, you just want to see it a bunch, this is a great way to just go see it. And they don't upcharge you for like seeing it in Dolby or 3D or IMAX or whatever. So come on, you're stealing money from them. If you don't have AMC A-List, get AMC A-List. Anyway, back to Ninja Scroll. Ninja Scroll was dope. It was everything I wanted out of a 90s era like anime title. Everything I could have asked for. The art style, kind of like the darker color palette and just darker tone and super violent, not censoring anything, which is super dope. I feel like, not that, like, we want things to be ultra violent, but I don't know. There's something about the violence in 90s stuff that just hits so much different. It's like they're not pulling their punches. There's like sometimes I feel like in modern things where they're trying to be violent, they're trying to uncensor themselves and it's like really, really forced. 90s clearly like doesn't care. 90s is just like, we're chopping off motherfuckers' arms. They're gone, blood everywhere, and it happens super quickly. I think that's what is the difference maker in a lot of 90s stuff is they don't hold on it for too long. They don't call attention to it needlessly. It's super violent, but it's here and gone. So it's like, oh shit, he's torn in half, but then we're on to the next thing and it's almost like you forget about it and it's just a normal thing. But yeah, it was incredible. And I knew it was going to be good going into it. It was funny because the theater was like kind of packed, right? It was in one of the like smaller theaters that doesn't have like as many seats as one of like the bigger theater seats, but it's still, everybody was in a seat. And there were a couple people cheering as the movie started. It was funny. Once people were cheering, I was like, okay, like this is going to be a good one. If people are here on a random Wednesday night and there's everybody's filling in the theater and there are a couple people clapping and cheering as the credits are, as like, the picture's coming up, like, okay, we're in for a good one. What's cool was before the movie started, they cut together a quick like interview segment with the director of the picture. I want to get the director's name, directed by Yoshikai Kawajiri. And they asked him a couple interview questions about Ninja Scroll, the creation of it, like where he got inspiration from, blah, 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 blah. My man Kawajiri definitely is a bit of a yapper, you get him going, he's going to be talking. Me and the gentleman I sat next to, we were kind of chuckling every time a question would pop up on the screen and he would be talking because it's like, oh my God, they're still going. But it was dope to hear him talk. I never knew of the guy before. Obviously, I haven't seen the movie before, so it was good to hear from the creative, to learn a little bit of behind the scenes background of how the movie came to be. One of my favorite questions that they posed in that interview segment was like, how do you like do action well? Like, what are the requirements for the action genre? And something that Kawajiri mentioned that I really took from it was the tempo of action. He almost related it to being a conductor of an orchestra, that in action there are the fast, strong moments and the slow, weak moments. And it's about finding a good balance between both of those things to create good action sequences. And that was really dope to hear before the movie, because it was very prevalent in this film. The action works, and the action is very much paced in that way, that there are quick moments of, like, obviously very intense action, like, delivered, and then it's over, and then it, like, the pacing dies down. This isn't an anime action film where people are literally fighting for minutes, where, like, one fight is just going on and on and on and on and on. It's more of like a quick execution of skill of two, highly classed assassins and ninjas. Which was interesting, obviously different from, the anime TV format, different from a lot of other action stuff that I watch. Or that is super prevalent nowadays, but still wildly entertaining, wildly enjoyable. From the opening frame, the main character Jubei had aura from the opening frame, walking on the bridge, with the straw hat, the sword over it. He's just chilling. The wind is moving. I was like, yes. I'm like, we're fucking locked in here. 3 assassins immediately try to get him, and he waxes them, wipes the floor with them easily, and automatically establishes him as somebody who is unfuckwittable. Okay. Great introduction to the character. And from then on, the movie doesn't stop. It had phenomenal pacing. We immediately go to learning about quick, like, rundown, I guess, of the plot. Is this random village randomly gets the plague, infected with the plague, and there's a local clan, samurai ninja clan, near it sends a detachment of ninja to investigate, and upon investigating, they are immediately brutally killed because the so-called infection of a plague on this town is a cover-up by this dark, evil ninja group. And all of them have like their own special technique about them. I'm not fully remembering, even though I have the list of the characters' names in front of me, there's no picture to the name, so I'm struggling to remember who was who. So I apologize. I will refer to them kind of like by their power, by their ability. I feel like most people who know this film remember the characters for their techniques, not so much their name. So I'm hoping y'all are gonna give me a pass for this one. But the first villain we're met with like a couple of villains really quickly, but the first one we really get introduced to is the dude who can turn his skin to stone, and he's huge. I mean, he's like double the size of every other character. He's got a giant double blade, and he's throwing it like a giant windmill shuriken from Naruto, and he's bifurcating everybody. It's fucking wild. This dude, I don't know, he woke up and just wanted blood. There was the one character, he literally ripped off his arm and was looking at the main girl and was like drinking the blood dripping from his arm. I was like, wow, we're rated R here. Okay. Obviously, I'm much older watching this. Like I said, this movie came out before my time. I can see after watching this movie how this is clearly must have been integral to people who were way younger when this came out, that this is easily an early exposure of anime for a generation of people, and this is really important. However, if you were a kid and you saw this movie, you're wild. Like, people would be complaining that video games are too violent and turning our kids violent. So, no. We need to look at the people who were kids and watched Ninja Scroll and, like, rented the DVD or something. And they said to their mom, like, hey, can I watch it? It's got ninjas. And the mom was like, it's got ninjas. How bad can it be? Motherfuckers are losing their heads within the first 10 minutes, and they're drinking the blood of it. Check on those kids. But I digress. Before I get into a tangent, the stone skinned guy, not a nice person. He, immediately takes our main female lead, Kagero, and does some very not nice things to her. But Jubei shows up, everything gets interrupted. Beautiful lighting, beautiful drawing, even though like the scene itself is rather disturbing and not something you enjoy watching. If you know what it is I'm talking about, but the animation of it was great. How the action escalated was really good, and it was so dope that even though he was told by like one of the higher up ninja guys, they're like, "Oh, let him go, like escape, like we've got better things to do," he still went after his kill. And they had, Jubei and him had that really dope scene. And he drew the sword. You could see the line of his slash go right to oh my God. And what was it? Yeah, he like threw the blade and the blade came back and hit him right in the middle of the head. And he was still alive, even though his own double blade is buried in his skull. And he tried to use it like a horn to kill Jubei, and Jubei just blocked it, so it sent it right to the ground, and it buried in the dude's skull even more. This is like the first like major fight within the first like 10-15 minutes of this film. And if that's how you start it, you gotta know more is coming. The sequencing of the fights was so beautiful. It was everything that you would expect from a really well done ninja samurai type movie, where we're going to kill people creatively. We're going to have fun with it. It's going to be really quick. We're not going to take too long to get these fights out. We're just going to show you some really dope sequencing and storyboarding of how the fights go down. So, and which is fine. It's almost like it's okay that the fights themselves are short because you're delivering it in kind of a creative way and cool way. It's not just like, oh, they get stabbed and they're dead. It's almost like you can tell Jubei is like a master at this. So the way he deals death to his enemies is very, very skilled, very meticulous, and it's appropriate for each of the enemies. So it's almost better that I'm not watching him fight one guy for 10 minutes and he dies just by having a better attack than him, I loved all the characters. Jubei was phenomenal. Everything I wanted out of a lone wolf ninja guy walking around with a sword and who's the most badass character ever. I mean, I eat that shit up. Shonen is my genre. Like, come on. Kagero was phenomenal. We love a good Konoichi. Takuan. It's always the super scrawny old men who don't do anything and are just cracking jokes. I mean, I'll put shade. Takuan did shit. He did jack shit, but he was a menace. He was like a thorn in the side of all the characters, but he didn't really do stuff. He wasn't my favorite guy. He's not supposed to be a good guy, so it's okay. But yeah, the movie moves very well. The pacing was really good. We kind of were introduced that there is a clan of 8 evil ninja led by villain known as Himuro Genma. But this leader Genma and our main character Jubei, they've got some prior beef. Jubei may or may not be responsible for a very unflattering neck scar that Genma's got. Genma got to walk around and be reminded of what Jubei did to him. But Jubei hears that Genma's alive and he was like, hold up, wait a minute. I killed him. Dakuan was like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Dude's back. Gotta kill him again, I guess. But after we're introduced that they're the 8 evil ninjas, it's kind of our characters are moving to get to Genma, and before they get to Genma, they go through all of the 8 evil ninjas, along the way. Some standout moments was there was the one ninja who had the snake tattoos, and she tattoos came off of her, came alive, and she used those snakes in combat. Masashi Kishimoto obviously watched this and was like Orochimaru, except The snake girl in this had some snakes coming out of her body in very creative areas. Areas that Orochimaru would have seen this. He's like, God damn it, why didn't I think of that? But it wasn't meant to be. But her scene was really, really cool. I loved the fight with the blind evil ninja. It seemed like he didn't have such an outwardly obvious technique like some of the other characters. He was just blind, but he could see really, really well. And of course, we're going to have that fight scene in a bamboo forest because you have to. If it's a samurai ninja movie, there needs to be one fight in a fucking bamboo forest where everything is like colored green. It's a requirement. If it wasn't in there, I would have left the movie. Just kidding. Would have still saw the movie. But that was a dope fight. Everything was really well. I feel like if I had one nitpick, there was the lightning villain who was very much a prominent sub-villain. He kept coming up. He seemed like more of like the lieutenant, like second in command. I very much got that vibe from him. His fight was a bit underwhelming. He captured Jubei and was electrocuting him, and then the girl that he hardcore passed on sent in a rat, which then exploded the building, killing the lightning dude in the process. And she hit him with the line, "When I call again, don't press ignore." But again, possibly another inspiration our friend Mishishi Kishimoto might have seen and thought Datara. There was like, I was looking for a little bit of ways. I'm like, how could this possibly tie into Naruto? Like, where are the Naruto inspiration? I was saying there was a few of them. I could see Kishimoto maybe getting a few ideas after seeing something like this. So that's me being nitpicky. The lightning dude was very much like a prominent character, and he was built up, and he didn't really last long once it came time to fight. I guess it makes for a good subversion for the explosion girl to kind of like, you think that she's just going to be a throwaway. Nah, she was more skilled than the lightning dude. So it works as a subversion. Doesn't really work as a character moment for the lightning dude. It's like, oh, come on, like, where was he? And I guess I would let it pass enough, but the explosion girl even kind of gets killed really, really quickly. She ones up the electric guy and then is immediately blicked. Even her wasn't that big of a deal. But I guess it's okay. It is a movie. We don't have all the time in the world. What we really need to get to is Jubei versus Genma. And do they get to it? Their fight was absolutely incredible. There was even a moment where Genma had Jubei against a pillar on this ship, and they were just reusing the same sequence of frames like 5 times, but he was just unloading a combo in him like, fight back. And Jubei was just like, I can't, you're punching me too quickly. And like he was cutting off pieces of Genma's body, but Genma was just like putting it back on him and regenerating because his technique is reincarnation. OD as hell. But their fight was beautiful. It was on a burning ship as it was sinking. There's fire everywhere. There was a frame when Genma notices that it's Jubei come to fight him, and Jubei is just like full framed with flames all around him, silhouetted, holding his sword, saying, "Step up." It was beautiful. I shed a tear. It was everything that I wanted. As good as their fight was, the way that Genma died kind of threw me off. They were trying to do something where it's like the gold that he stole that was on the ship, because the ship was burning, the gold had melted, and a wave of melted gold got on him, covering him in gold, which weighed him down, which caused him to sink with the ship. I'm not a scientist. I don't know at what temperature gold melts at, so I'm not going to question it too much. But the way they drew it, they literally made it seem like it was like an ocean of gold. Like a lot of fucking liquid gold washed up on this guy. So it was a bit like, huh? I'm okay with him. I'm okay with the gold killing him because it's almost like what he wanted was the gold. Like the object of his desire is his demise. Totally fine with that. It's just the way they drew it made it a little bit too much for me. Again, I'm nitpicking. I didn't grow up with it. It's the first time I saw it. I'm allowed to have opinions. I love the film. Don't be mad at me. I guess spoiler territory. If any of this wasn't a spoiler enough, you didn't have to do my girl Kaguro like that. I mean, you had me like the building romance. She told Jubei she was afraid of falling for him because she knew that she couldn't be with him because she's poison. So she tried to push him away so she couldn't get too close, and she regretted that. Like, you tell me that and then she dies? Like, you are like, I didn't ask for this. I did not ask for that. But it was absolutely beautiful, and it was a awesome fuel to Jubei's fire. He kept her headband, then used her headband to just be bashing, foreheading Genma. Oh my god, it was so dope. Yeah, no, this movie, really, really good, really entertaining. Like I said earlier, I can see how this would be an integral early viewing, early iteration. Oh my god. Like I said earlier, I can see how this was very integral to young anime viewers back in the early 90s, mid to late 90s too, like watching it on video. That if you were a kid and this was one of the first things you saw of anime, that it gets you into anime. I totally see that. And I think this is still really good for anime fans in general who have been into anime but are more accustomed to like newer stuff but want to get into old things. I'm very fond of the saying that the 90s is the best decade for anime. I'm not saying like the greatest shows of all time came out in the 90s. It's more so the impact the 90s had, and also just what they did for the medium is huge. You'll also hear a lot of people say that the 70s is the best decade for American cinema. I mean, just look at the movies that came out in the 70s and you know what I'm talking about. Same kind of goes for the 90s. I mean, this is one of many releases in this decade. So I super happy that I get to continue on the hill that 90s is the best decade. So wrapping up, loved it. Loved Ninja Scroll. Will probably rewatch it many times. If you have not seen it, do yourself a favor, watch Ninja Scroll. Okay, and transitioning from our anime talk, we're going to close it out with some manga talk. As I mentioned last episode, my next read was going to be Gyo by Junji Ito. In short, fire. Loved every page of it. Could not put it down, which, is usually a great sign, Not that I wanted to pace it out. I knew I kind of wanted to, get through it pretty quickly to get to have the review by this episode. But once I started reading, I genuinely couldn't put it down. I was like, oh, no, I am finishing this. I've only read Uzumaki and Yo of Junji Ito, so I have, I can't help myself but compare the two. They're not really comparable. They're both very, very good. It's just they're both delivered in different ways. Uzumaki is way more anthology, until the last couple chapters where it's pretty linear, but it's anthology-ish, throughout most of it, whereas one chapter is just on one little story out of a grander story. Gyo is completely linear, and I love that. I think it absolutely worked for it. I don't think I could deal with the pacing of an anthology of Gyo, of what it was. I think it worked so much better just being a linear story, and it's paced beautifully. It starts off really, really slow. I don't want to call it a slow burn, but it takes its time, which is great with horror. We have a very slow build in. What are we dealing with? What is this? And we're introduced to just a singular monster. And it's it's gross. Get it out of my room. And we build from there. Soon it's one walking fish creature. And then it's an entire swarm of walking fish creatures. And it gets even worse from there, which is dope. Which is exactly what you want, in a disaster horror story like this. We need to continuously up the stakes. We need to continuously make everything worse as we're reading it. And I think it's paced beautifully. For 19 chapters, damn good fucking job. I guess I'll round it out by saying Gyo is really, really good. If you're looking for manga, specifically looking to get into Junji Ito, don't really know where to begin, and you prefer linear stories, definitely read Gyo. You'll love it. I guarantee you won't be able to put it down. And it also wasn't really, really scary. There were some chapters of Uzumaki that fucked me up. Okay? The hospital chapters. If you've read Uzumaki, you know what I'm talking about. But Gyo, not as scary as Uzumaki, in my opinion. Gyo is a little bit more body horror, so it's like kind of gross. It's grotesque and creepy in that sense, scary, but nothing like really, really horrific. So if you don't want full-on horror, but you want to read his stuff and you want linear, read Gyo. So I'll say that because now I would like to go into more spoiler talk. If you don't want to get spoiled of Gyo, stop listening. Thanks for coming. We'll see you at the end of the video. Skip to like the last couple minutes of the video. But, okay, so now I'll get into a little bit of spoiler talk for Gyo. I have some notes here, so pardon me as I look down on my phone. Continuing, I guess, where I left off of the spoiler-free section, the pacing of the events is really, really well done. Like I said, we start with one walking fish monster, then it turns into a swarm, and then all of Okinawa is pretty much taken over by these fish monsters. The characters are like, we're done our vacation. We're going back to the city. They're chilling in the city, but then on the news, oh my god, the fish monsters have come to mainland. And then in a few chapters, they're in fucking Tokyo. And the next thing you know, all of Tokyo is just covered in this smoke and fish monsters, and it's just not fun anymore. It's off the 2024 vacation list. And as, you know, fish over water don't really do well. They eventually decay. But we've got these walking machines, and they grab humans. The minute I turned the page and I was like, oh, people are going to be on this? I was like, we're done. We're toasted. Because Junji Ito shows up with his artwork, man. That dude can fucking draw. So as soon as I saw that people could go on the walking machines, I knew I was like, I'm going to have a bucket next to me as I read this because there's going to be some gross shit coming up. But what is so good about Gyo for me, it kept me guessing a couple times. At first you see these walking fish, and then the way Junji drew it, he was very, very smart with this. It kind of at first just looks like some weird bug fish hybrid mutant alien thing where it's just like, okay, these fish have legs now. But as the story continues, we realize that they are actually a robotic metal walking device that latches onto the fish and pumps the fish, or the fish that have this gas in it, and the gas is what's controlling the legs. So, which was a phenomenal change for me. Obviously, I thought they were just mutated, and then they're kind of like hybrid robot kind of a things, which kept, obviously, the story more interesting for me because it subverted my expectations and introduced new things. But that's almost not what made the story so good for me. Really, the heart of it all is the relationship of our two main characters, Tadashi and Kaori. They start off not great. They could use some relationship counseling for sure. And then obviously everything goes to shit around them. But it was kind of really awesome to see that they stuck it out. They still made it work. They were still loyal to each other. Spoilers coming in. Even after Kaori gets really, really infected by the gas and inevitably gets placed on a machine and is like very dead, he is still like, where's Kaori? Homeboy was in a coma for a month and woke up and was like, where's Kaori? And she no longer really looks like the girl he was dating, but he was still very committed to her, very loyal to her, even after her being, at her worst, being a decaying, bloated monster attached to mechanical legs. He was still fighting to save her. I think that is really what sent it home for me, that his drive as a character to protect Kaori and defend her. And even Kaori had her moments where she was defending him. There was the moments of kind of like right before he went in his coma that he saw her face in the smoke, the gas. And then even when she was in the chair, she turned on her chair and tried to defend him from the hordes of the people leg monsters, if you will. So their dedication to protecting each other was really, really heartwarming. And it definitely hurt that by the end of it, she was dead. But I mean, that's what brings it home, is that you can have a disaster horror and also sprinkle in these themes of romance. It makes the characters super, super strong. It makes us care for them more, and it just gives the story so much heart and relatability that even though everything is really, really crazy and unbelievable and fantastical, there's still those human elements into it, and it helps us connect to the story more, which is ultimately will lead to the horror being that much better. And I mean, Junji Ito is I've read 2 stories, and I know this guy ain't nothing to fuck with in terms of horror. I guess speaking on that, that was another thing that I really loved was obviously shit hits the fan and it gets really, really crazy, and we're told of how crazy it gets everywhere else, but we never leave the immediate vicinity of Tadashi. We follow Tadashi and Kaori and a couple of their other close characters, and we see the damage where they are. We don't leave Japan at all. I think it's mentioned that it happens around the world, but we don't see how bad it is around the world. Tadashi and Kaori go to Tokyo, and the monsters go to Tokyo, but we don't leave Tokyo unless they leave it. So it kept the disaster very grounded and ultimately helped it be believable. I think if I had to read chapters of these fish monsters and gas going global, I'd probably believe it a little bit less. But the fact that it was what we saw was local and grounded made everything more believable. So I appreciated that. And I guess the last thing I really appreciated about Gyo, in contrast to Uzumaki, was this one kind of leaves in more of a hopeful light. Obviously, it's tragic that Tadashi is never able to save Kaori. She full on dies by the end of it, and it's not the outcome he wanted, but at least we're kind of left with the somewhat knowledge that he is presumably immune, and he meets with other presumably immune people who happen to be scientists and are left with that drive of like, we are going to find a way to cure the gas, get rid of all this, and fix everybody. And Tadashi is like very steadfast in joining them, but he has to say one last goodbye to Kaori. And it was really, really beautiful that they could share that final nice moment looking out into the horizon, not arguing about the smell. Yeah, he even said like, oh, you don't smell anymore, Kaori. You could be at peace. I was like, stop it. I'm not going to cry. Like, what are you doing to me? But it's nice that, the book ends there. We don't know if they cure it, but we are left with the hope and, we presume that everything works out, that Tadashi and the other immune people are able to stop this. We don't know. There are some people who are maybe more cynical or maybe read a lot more Junji Ito and are like, yeah, no, they don't save him. The world goes to shit. But I think that's what works of Gyo. The viewer, the reader is kind of left up to their own imagination what they think is the outcome of it all. Whereas Uzumaki is the opposite. Uzumaki is just like, nope, you all failed. Everybody's dead. These events have happened before, and they will continue to happen. Full tragedy. Everything sucks. So coming off of Uzumaki, this was a nicer ending. It was nice to have a little bit of hope given to us. But I'm now like full in on Junji. I want all the sauce. So I guess if you got more Junji Ito recommendations, please hit my line. I don't think I'm gonna find another Junji Ito book for my next reading. I'll probably read some other stuff, and I think the next one, I don't really know the next one. So yeah, if you got recommendations, hit me up. But to close out the manga section, I picked up the next thing of Chainsaw Man. Hoping I will read this and maybe I can talk about it next episode. I would like to talk about Chainsaw Man manga in general because I have some thoughts, but I don't know if that would be next episode or not. But yeah, so looking to talk about this. Also, in terms of other manga that I picked up, I got Tokyo Ghoul 3. I know I didn't mention this in the first one, but I am reading the Tokyo Ghoul manga because I've heard don't watch the anime, read the manga instead. I was like, okay, noted. And I love it. I think the art is phenomenal. I think the story is great. I read 2 a while ago. I might need to reread 2. I remember pretty well what happens in the first one. I may need to reread the second one before I read 3. But I picked up 3, hoping to get back into it. Kind of keeping the horror train going, I guess, you know. But yeah, those are my manga pickups. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about those next weekend, or next episode, I should say. But that pretty much wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you for listening to me yap about Ninja Scroll and Gyo. If you have not seen Ninja Scroll, go watch that shit. It's dope. If you haven't read Gyo, read that shit. It's dope. Those are my recs. That it's almost like I feel like a doctor. I feel like the anime doctor right now. These are my prescriptions. I'm prescribing you 1 Ninja Scroll and 1 Gyo. Go ahead. Go to the pharmacy. Go to your bookstore or wherever you can watch Ninja Scroll and fucking get your prescription out here. Those are that's my talk for today. So thank you very much for joining. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.